One thing that has always fascinated me about old video games is what they looked like before they were completed. Nowadays, a video game's development process is super heavily documented and information leaks out and goes viral at light speed before the devs even knew what hit them. Needless to say, a lot of the mystery is gone now, and it's no longer quite as engaging to dig into these things for contemporary games. But every once in a while, a treasure trove of previously unseen behind-the-scenes content for an older game pops up out of nowhere that makes me lose my goddamn marbles. And last week, that game happened to be Ocarina of Time, which is not only one of the greatest video games ever made, but also had a very interesting development history. Did you know that this game originally had compatibility with the 64 disk drive? Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure you can imagine how that ended up. As far as my understanding goes, somebody discovered an F-Zero X demo cartridge from Space World 1997, but upon data mining the cartridge, they discovered a bunch of data from a pre-release build of Ocarina of Time that was on the cartridge before it was overwritten. I guess the full ROM wasn't recoverable, but a shitload of assets were still intact, and there is still more stuff being found as I'm recording this video. As you can imagine, I flipped my shit when I heard about this. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting to see this stuff? Better yet, a user going by Z64Me made a ROM hack that basically ported map models recovered from this demo cartridge into the actual game so we can explore them on our own. And that's cool. Like, cooler than shit, really. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. Now there's a bunch of other videos that talk about this already, which you should definitely check out too, and I do recommend playing this for yourself as well, so this really is just a brief overview. For the most part, these maps don't really have any intricate functionality aside from just being solid surfaces to explore, but even that is a very cool experience because there is so much we can learn about the development of the game by looking at this. There are so many inferences you can make just by contrasting these levels against their complete counterparts. You start to notice patterns in the level design, paradigms that they decided to shift away from in the final cut. Many of the maps here did end up in the final game, though they looked very different. Take the Deku Tree for instance. The first thing I thought was, wow, this is confusing as shit. Without all the keys and puzzles laid out, the area seemed way less straightforward navigation-wise, with a billion different doorways that all looked very similar to each other. I started to notice that this was a bit of a common theme with the pre-release dungeons. The water temple looks even more confusing than it does in the actual game, and that's without the water. This is very interesting to me, cause remember, this is 1998 we're talking about here, you know, developers are still trying to figure out how video games in 3D space should function. And don't forget that even the 2D Zeldas were confusing for people, so imagine translating that into 3D. It's very clear that they had this in mind when they were refining the final product, because the real Ocarina of Time is much more manageable. At the same time, you'll also notice certain overworld areas like Lake Hylia and Hyrule Field are absolutely massive, and a lot of the textures and geometry are more primitive. Then you'll have the Kakariko Village beta with all these cookie cutter houses, which is honestly one of the most terrifying things I think I've ever seen in my life. It's like a ghost town, you know? People should be here, but it's completely empty and barren. Then you have this shrine in the middle of a forest and a shrunken down Hyrule castle grounds. It's just fascinating to see how different the game could have looked. Some of the textures actually have a Wind Waker look about them. I think one of the coolest maps that I saw was this horseback archery range, which I think exists in some beta screenshots. As expected, the targets don't have any real functionality, but it is very cool just to see this. Otherwise, you also have these testing areas where they test out terrain among other things. There are a bunch of maps that don't exist in the final game the way they do here, but I wanted to focus on the ones I found the most interesting. Again, I strongly recommend going to Z64Me's channel to find out more because research into this is still ongoing. Otherwise, holy shit dude, they found beta assets from Ocarina of Time, that's fucking insane.